I will say Dove is one of those brands that decided a couple of years ago that they needed to like appeal to the manly men. And so all of their packaging went like dark gray and it's like Dove for men. And it's like my deodorant just recently did this and it really pisses me off because I don't have a small dick that needs to be coddled by capitalism and be told that I'm a man by the type of packaging on the thing that doesn't make me smelly. Like, ooh, you're gay because you don't want to smell a certain like, no, dipshit. It's fucking deodorant. You're washing your balls with this thing. Shut the hell up. Who cares what color the package is? You fragile little wimp. I don't understand.
They actually changed the pronunciation. It's called Dove for men.
Dove. Dove for men.
Dove for men.
Like, I don't, there's an entire marketing brand which is making men feel like men. And I'm sorry that you need the packaging to tell you that this is toilet paper for men. This is body soap for men. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I don't understand how Andrew Tate pilled, insecure, micro dicked you have to be to think that that's a thing you need capitalism to tell you about. It boggles my mind.
It does introduce an interesting idea, though. Booby-trapped sort of, utensils. Like a toothbrush that is like just obnoxiously painful to use, right? Like, because it vibrates, but it's got knobbles on the back, so they're banging against your top teeth while you're doing the bottom ones. And that would build...
Just a way to torture the stupidest people in our society.
Yeah, but it would be manly. Where it's like, I just finished brushing my teeth and I'm bleeding, but I feel manly.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Like deodorant with razor blades in your deodorant.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well, now I know there's
like, what was wrong with my silver and orange deodorant bottle? I don't understand why it needs to now be dark gray and have 4 men in silver on it. Like, what? Why? Welcome to Acceptance Criteria, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of how software gets made and how we can all do a better job together. My name is Kevin Thomas Euland, and across the chat from me is Andrew Greener. Say hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. We're also here to get deeper on the human elements. I could go on for an eternity about people and how they think about the process of building complex systems. And I can't think of 2 better people to do that than Kevin and I.
Yeesh. Which is why we need more guests on this show. If you've got a topic you'd like to come discuss or rant about, drop us a note and we'll see if we can get you on a future episode. You can go to acceptancepod.com/guest and submit your ideas. Also, don't forget you can follow us on most apps. We're at AcceptancePod. We'll post links to show notes and any articles from the blog over there.
We're also building a community on Reddit at r/acceptancecriteria, or you can find us on Discord. Once there, you'll find links to show notes and other artifacts you'll find on our blog. We promise to moderate the heck out of anything submitted to the team to keep it a nice little slice of the internet.
On this week's show, we'll be digging into some more Reddit questions. But before we get to all of that, let's take a short break and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. This is a segment we like to call User Stories, where we dig into some interesting questions on Reddit that we can tackle. All right, Dusk Stalker.
Cool name.
Product owner career path. Good name?
Cool name. Dusk Stalker. Wait a minute. It sounds a bit creepy now.
The person, I mean, it's like no, I guess vampires would be dawn stalkers?
Yeah.
Dusk Stalker is the end of the night.
Because stalker, just stalker's bad, right?
Stalker's not a great word.
Yeah. So any time of day, Dusk Stalker. Strange name.
Hello, I'm a PO with around 6 years of experience. I'm starting to wonder where should I branch out and how should I handle my career and my future positions. The most obvious recommended position is product manager, it seems, which sounds sensible. But I'd like to know if it's some less known career paths you've heard of or other positions a PO might branch out to. That could be interesting. I'd like to explore all my options and have a clear goal in my career. And I've got opinions, but I'm also curious if you've run into product owners that you've seen go in good directions. I definitely think product manager makes sense, but I also think there's a bunch of transferable skills to people who have to be that close to the engineering backlog, who have to be able to hang with the technical discussions and help with prioritization and making trade-off decisions and things like that. Depending on, the problem is product manager and product owner are job titles that kind of mean nothing. It depends on the company that you work at, what you were responsible for. But I do think if your organization has sales engineers, the people who go out and figure out how to talk to clients about their problems and start to figure out what the client implementation would need to look like and how you would, the implementation implementation of client projects, depending on the type of company, the sales engineer is the person in the early discussion calls with the prospect to even figure out what path they would go down, has some definitely applicable skills. Same with solution architects. Solution architects often get brought in during client implementations to actually figure out what you should do to structure things. And sometimes engineering teams have solution architects to figure out features and architectural questions and things like that. Be curious if there's some applicability to enterprise architecture. I don't know. I feel like there's a bunch of opportunities depending on the type of company you're at.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with those, like tech sales, solution architecting. Yeah, actually, in some cases, enterprise architects, if not enterprise architects, certainly liaising with the enterprise architecture team. I've seen some really good POs make that switch to solution architecture, though, especially in tech
Right.
sales, because when you're talking about APIs, you don't even need to necessarily be that technical to understand, like, hey, we've got an amazing API, and these are some of the things that we've seen implemented with our API. So I often think about that with regard to like a product owner who knows the platform really, really well, and then takes that extra bit of time to understand the APIs to go out and
Right.
say, and by the way, I did this over a weekend, hitting our API, getting data in, getting data out. So yeah, I think that's probably the three that I've seen. Yeah, tech sales, solution architecture, and then
Yep.
someone like a K2. No, you're a K2, but like a K that we know. I think
Right.
that's somebody who you could transition into being a really technical sort of product engineer, right?
Yep. Well, and I think I would recommend, like, I think, and I've done this a bunch of times in my career, which is easier said than done. And I've just been fortunate to be at the type of companies that supported this. But it's less about the job title and it's more about what in the bullet points of the job description are similar to what you're doing and that you enjoy doing. So your company may not have a thing called sales engineer. They may not have a thing called solution architect, but they have a customer success, whatever, analyst. But that person's job is to take requirements and convert them into evaluations of next tactical steps for the customer to do as part of quarterly business reviews and a bunch of things. And if you look at the bullet points of what they do, that might be applicable and interesting. You've had to manage a backlog of requirements, prioritizing what's the next best task and action, breaking down problems into action statements, right? Like you think about the fundamental skills and convert that into other job titles in your organization. Because, yeah, it may not be a job title one-to-one match. Look at the bullet points and figure out what you actually like doing about the job.
Yeah, that's what they call it, right? Is it transformational skills? Right? It became like
Mm,
the
sure.
yeah, transformational. Well, sort of the Googles and the big companies were saying over the last few years, the degree becomes less important, and they're looking for people who have they have those skills. They can move from doing this because there's enough bullets and the overlap is like the Venn diagram, right? They can live in
Right.
both worlds, and we know a lot of people like that. You're like that. I choose not to be like that, right? Probably my my superpowers have sort of been not nullified, but they've taken a hit through COVID, which was like I was always there. If the engineers were working late, I was always working late with
Right.
them. It didn't matter, right? Like I was always about you go through it with your people, and then I choose to be a dorky tech geek guy, and then I reject everything else. Like you start talking about sales, and I'm like, nope, that's not my department. You're going to talk to these guys about that. You're going to talk about legal
Right.
and NDAs. Nope, that's not me. You're going to talk to these guys about that. So I think, yeah, that's good advice. Take a look, and I think LinkedIn do a good job at this as well. Sort of once you
Yeah,
get your
actually.
skills in there, they do a really good job of sort of showing you like, here's your overlap with this job, right? Like,
Yep.
and here's what you could expand on or change to get closer fitting to that job. So, but yeah, you should be looking for that where your skills exist in multiple boxes, and then the more boxes you tick in that particular skill kind of tells you like, will I enjoy it and am I going to be good at it?
Right. Well, and that's easier in an organization or with an organization where you have an in, right? So, like, if your job title on your resume for the last 6 years has always been product owner and you're applying to a sales engineer, solution architect, product manager, any number of job titles, that is sometimes harder to break through the recruiter filter of, well, this person doesn't have the right job title for me to consider them for this role. So if you do have the opportunity to say, oh, here's this person that I worked with 3 years ago, they're now at this other company, I can get that in with them and talk about what I'm trying to do and get past that recruiter filter. Same thing internally, right? It's a lot easier internally to move between teams. Sometimes depends on the company. So that is also, I would say, a thing to keep in mind is if you're going to go down this road, don't get discouraged that you're about to submit your resume. I mean, it's a terrible job market now anyway. You're going to submit your resume 1,000 times, but it's going to be harder if you're going to go down this path if you don't have an in either inside the company or with a connection at another company.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think I often tell people too, like when they're close to leaving a company because they don't feel like they can transfer, is ask for the world, right? Like if you're going
Right.
anyway, just ask. Like I want to move here. Like I talked to this person and they have a wreck and I want to go do it. I know I don't have the skills. Like you're gonna leave anyway, so you may as well ask for the world. Like try to get that
Right.
bump, try to get that move. So I think that's where you and I have probably always been in control of our careers, right? Like we've had that opportunity to move sideways or move up or say, yes, I'll do
Right.
that. I'll go learn that. And that's how I got into architecture was like never saying no to anything. Now I
Hmm.
say no to things because I'm like, one, I'm busy all the time. And two, I'm like, I don't want to go into DevOps again. Like I was doing DevOps in '02. And
Right.
I don't want to go back there now. So much has changed in that world for me to play catch up. There are better guys to do that who were raised in modern DevOps. So yeah, just be a yes man and get more of those check boxes where then you can move around. As long as you do it the healthy way, right? You don't become one of those heroes.
No, yeah, but that is like find the opportunity to be like, hey, I see that there's a group of customer success analysts, and that seems like a really good next step for me. So the next time I have the opportunity as a product owner working on a feature with a customer success person who needs to deliver to the customer, I'm going to write up the 5 bullet points for that person and send it over and figure out what their feedback is for me on how I, right? Like find those opportunities to do that thing and get that opportunity, get that experience.
Yeah, I think companies need to be better too about having not just strong recruiting from the outside, but looking internally. Because one of the things that I've always wanted to
Yeah.
try was being on the the sales team on the road. Unfortunately for me, it would be leaving the company and taking a massive hit and having to rebuild myself, or my current
Right.
company sort of looking at me and saying, yeah, we'll give you that opportunity, and you're not going to have to change your lifestyle to try it, right? Like if you
Right.
rocket it and you bring in $1 million revenue next year, your lifestyle is not going to change negatively. So I think good companies have a program for things like that, right? Where and also one of the best companies I worked at, I think we both worked there, we got acquired by them, recognizing that individual contributors don't cap out at a certain price, right? Where it's like, I have no desire to lead, but this is how much money I can make. So now I'm going to go be a bad leader because that's what I need to
Right.
do to get more money. You want to be in a company that's got a better plan than that.
I think that's one of those weird things that runs out at some point. At some point, you are senior staff engineer 3, and the whole point of having senior staff engineer 4 would be to give you a $10,000 raise because you think you deserve more for more experience. And I don't know, like I think that we should talk about that as another topic at some point because I run into if you're going to complain about women's sports and the WNBA doesn't bring in as much revenue and therefore they shouldn't get paid as much. My answer is that engineer is not delivering any more value to the company just because they have more experience. Their output is right. Like that's an interesting topic we should have at some point.
Yeah, we should.
I also think like you and I have been in the situation where I don't know that enough managers and companies are open to this idea, which is I'm kind of done with you. You're not a good product owner, you're not a good engineer, but you do have a ton of it's not that you're bad at knowing the company, you're not bad at knowing the software, you're not bad at a bunch of things, you're just maybe not the right fit for the role that you're in. Why aren't we finding an opportunity for you to go work in QA, work in some other role where if I was to hire a new person to come in, their first 6 months is going to be learning this crazy complex industry we're in and how our software works. You have all of that knowledge built in. So I do think that there's like companies owe themselves that willingness to say like this person has a product owner job title. They have a ton of experience. If I was to hire somebody outside of the company, I'm going to spend 6 months training them on the industry and the software that we have. Or I could take this person who I'm going to have to spend 6 months training them how to be a QA person, but they have all of that knowledge built in. I don't know. There's some trade offs that I think companies should be open to and willing to discuss that could help folks like this.
Yeah, I like that. That's one of the I sort of put in that category of one of my superpowers that's been affected from COVID. But I used to love walking around and watching people's behaviors and how they worked. And I always use the example of young Natalie in the airlines. She was in release engineering, but as I was looking at her information, like the way she tracked information, like was way beyond what I would expect a release engineer to be doing. And it's like
Sure.
I don't want you in here. I want you out there. I want you helping the
Right.
knock. I want you building dashboards in the knock and making sense of this data. She was like a real information guru. And it's like, you bring me so much more in the knock and helping these guys make sense of this data than in release
Right.
engineering. So yeah, I miss that. I miss sort of.
That's definitely harder when you're remote.
It is, yeah, but it also plays into my fascination with sports teams, which is like, my center forward is, I'm out of center forwards. Everybody's on the injury list, but I know the guy at right back, just the way they move, the speed, they got good control.
Sure.
They can be dangerous up front, right? So I love that. I love optimizing your team and having to respond to like, I got a gap here. Who can I fill it with? I do enjoy that part of leadership.
Right. All right. PT629629. I want to know the story behind that username. Manager one on ones. I am realizing I've never really learned how to get support from my manager. Can you guys tell me a little bit about how you spend your one on one time with your manager? Thank you. I thought there was a really interesting discussion in the actual Reddit thread. So, particular dash rent dash 2200 replied with, in a good one on one, you discuss what are your aspirations and what support do you need to meet there, development areas, and if you're making enough progress there, stakeholder feedback about you that you may not know, where you want them to intervene, what can they help you to meet the goals you're missing. And a bad one-on-one is discussing project status, review metrics and work goals, go over documents together, brainstorm feature ideas. So then the next user, the dash real dash grusalug, I gotta stop reading Reddit usernames and just say another user, replied with, is it opposite day? This is terrible advice. One-on-ones are not a career therapy session. Focus on alignment and tactical guidance. And they go into more feedback about the good versus the bad. And it's interesting. I'm sort of curious what your opinion on this is, because I do think it's actually a mix of both. My one-on-ones with my team are very rarely status check-ins, but if there's a thing that I need to be aware of that I didn't realize they were getting in trouble or needed help or needed to discuss, I do want to know what's going on. Some of that also just happens and we have just group chat threads where I'm staying up to date on what they're doing, so I don't need to do that very much. I do want to talk about career and things that they want to do next. It's not every single check-in, but we talk about what do they want to do and what are the things that I can do to enable them to do that. And then sometimes we do brainstorm ideas. Sometimes in 10 minutes we talk about blockers that they have that I can help escalate and clear, and then the rest of it is like, hey, let's have fun talking about a weird thing that you're trying to solve, and can I, share anything I've ever done that would help you there. I don't know, to me a one-on-one is kind of whatever it needs to be, and I don't know, I'm curious where you fall on all of this.
Yeah, so it depends on the person. Obviously, like some people are coming in and they might need more tactical, strategic. Like if it's one of my senior guys who I know they're existing out in the ecosystem by themselves, so it can be like a level set, which is like how you feeling, right? Like it can be pressure, how you handling this. Like I'm dealing with the same thing, so I know you must be dealing with it. So how are you dealing with that? So I think it depends on the individual, but I always remind the person it's your time. So we're
Right.
going to take it where you want to take it. However, the beginning and the end is always a temperature check. How are you doing? And then usually towards the end, I also want to try get in without encroaching. I want to find out, how are things outside of here, right? Because
Sure.
I have a couple of rules, which are if you know someone's going through something because they've shared, then I like to know on a Friday that they're not taking that into the weekend, especially if it's work related. So yeah, so it depends on the person, depends what they're going through, but it's their time. And it's a mix, like you said. Some of it is like, hey, this project, it's da da da. And then I also use it as an opportunity to say, if you're not investing in yourselves right now, right, learning new stuff. So that's also where I'll put a little bit more pressure on your goals include learning something new, depending on whatever that is. So that's definitely a consistent message in my one-on-ones. I don't get into project status, not the nitty gritty.
Right. Well, and I think that sort of also depends on the type of org and role and
Yeah.
things, right? So, like, I'm on so many stand ups and various check ins and we have different chats and threads that I'm always included on, even though I only get to read like half of them during the day. But, like, I'm so hyper aware of already what's going on with my team that I would be curious if you are a customer success manager and your team is working with clients all day and you all aren't checking in on things. Maybe there is some degree of like, what's going on, what's on your plate, can I make sure we're talking about your capacity, issues that you've got, stuff like that. But yeah, it probably depends on what's going on. But I think the person's original question of like, how to get support from my manager, just ask for it. Like, a good manager is asking you that kind of stuff. What are the things I can do for you? What can I clear for you? Blockers, that stuff going on. What are topics we should discuss with things you're running into with interpersonal stuff? If there's career growth opportunities, like all of that that kind of stuff should be part of the check-in, but if it's not, just ask. Just tell your manager what they should be helping you with. And I think to your point, it's their meeting. I will get what I need out of it through 7 different mechanisms. The one-on-one time is for me to make sure that they've got me to support them. And if your manager doesn't approach your one-on-one that way, then there's also probably some organizational feedback you
Yeah,
need.
and as much as I don't like humans, it's good to see the consistency and the change. Like you're the same thing, right? You know your people, you know when you can sense when there's stress, or you can sense when, hey, you've been like the
Right.
last 4 weeks, you've been sort of on fire, you've been super positive, and today something's amiss, right? I always like those temperature checks.
Right.
I'm always fascinated by like people sort of change. And it was interesting this week. It was a really, really good time to answer this question because actually, this last week, I had told a bunch of guys, hey, unless you need me for the one on ones, I'm going to cancel them. And you basically have 30 minutes to let me know because I need to reclaim my calendar. And one of them came back and said, I really need your time. It's like, perfect. We're still going to do it. I don't generally sacrifice one on one time, but I do want them to know this
Yeah.
is your time, right? Unless I have something that I'm chasing up with you, or I'm worried about you, or I want to reward you for something, this is your time. And if you don't want to use it, I'm not going to waste your time and my time, just go
Right.
ahead. So, yeah, it's a good time on this question.
Well, and that's also, I think, so depending on where you're at in your career level, if you're the manager, I've got skip levels, and when it's not my direct, I'm especially like with people that I'm directly like responsible for. I don't know what the right word for. I hate the word boss. I hate the word manager. But like with my directs, I'm definitely a little bit closer to like keeping on top of what's going on, capacity management, a bunch of that kind of stuff. With a skip level where you're 1 or 2 levels, down the org hierarchy from me, I'm very explicit at the start of every single one of those calls. Like, this is your time. I don't want you to give me a status update. I'm not checking in on you. This is what, do you have feedback for your manager? Do you have feedback from me? Do you have questions about what's going on with the business? Is there a blocker that you should have escalated to me like 3 weeks ago? And that's a different conversation, which is blockers are not a thing that you should cover in one-on-ones. That's a thing that you should like immediately get help for. But yeah, like you just have, if your manager isn't setting those expectations with you at the start, then you maybe need to go to their manager and talk about things. I don't know, but yeah, this is what you should expect from your
Yeah.
leader.
Yeah. I do like it as a plugin too, which is I like them to be talking more because then I get the opportunity to say, oh, plug me into that. Right. Especially if there's an accountability problem where it's
Exactly.
like, no, 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 I need to be in front of you from an accountability sense on that. Like, if you're not comfortable
Right.
making the decision, I'm right here. So plug me in. So I do like to let the employee talk a lot. If I'm talking, I feel like I'm stealing that time. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Fully agreed. Lumpy Monkey. Expectations of PMs in today's market. Just saw this post on LinkedIn and interested to get people's thoughts. So the post is from Brandon Anderson, Chief Product Officer at, it's cut off on the screenshot. Product manager hiring is evolving, at least for me. From now on, I want to see what's in a PM's toolbox. What's in your prompt library? What automations have you built to increase your speed and leverage? What's in your GitHub? What prototypes or passion projects show how you think and build? What AI tools have you mastered and why? And so Lumpy Monkey responds, as a PM with 12 years of experience, I read this and laughed. What's in your prompt library? Give me a break. But there are a lot of people agreeing with the sentiment of the post, and it got me thinking about this kind of stuff. I'm a PM with a computer science background, but I haven't written a line of code in years. My job is strategic and user focused. I'm not spending time writing code or automating my role because I don't do monotonous stuff that needs automating. Also, this crap about passion projects with what time. I work 50 hours per week, and the rest of my time is for me, not spending more time in front of my computer playing entrepreneur. And I think just the shitty, annoying part of me who hates all generative AI because it's theft and nonsense does sort of agree with part of this. But I do think also in general, product manager is a job title that is meaningless. There are 8 different types of product managers out there, and there are absolutely certain types of product managers who might be benefited from having, I don't know that you need a prompt library, but it might be interesting to see what are the things you've had to do to automate some of your repetitive tasks in companies that don't have tools. I'm not 100% against this idea that a product manager needs to have code repos on GitHub and stuff like that. I don't think it's very common, and it depends entirely on the role, but I do think this universal LinkedIn influencer world of product and engineering people who think that they're going to give you these little nuggets of wisdom that are generally applicable to everybody is total bullshit. There is no universally applicable thing that's good for all product managers. The same is true of engineers. And so I do think that this is a situation of like, yeah, I mean, cool. That's a good thing for you. I'm not sure it applies to a bunch of PMs who are entirely focused on customer feedback, user surveys, and a bunch of other things who don't need to have a GitHub repo. So I don't know. I'm 50-50 on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. There's a couple of things. I don't pay too much mind of the sentiment of a post on LinkedIn because,
Sure.
yeah, sentiment analysis is broken, period, right? Like the fact that sentiment analysis allows you to say happy stuff and thought provoking. I hate sentiment analysis. I hate the fact that I can't be the douche who's like, this is crap. There should be a pile of turd, right? Because there's so much turd on LinkedIn. So I
Yeah.
defend Lumpy Monkey in that it's really annoying looking at the sentiment on posts, right? Um, I love I love bouncing ideas off AI. Like it's always about perspective, right? Like good prompt engineering allows me to look at it from, and again, for someone like me, looking at it from a customer's point of view is not my expertise, right? I'm not a product guy. I'm a techie, and people say, "Oh, you build tech for this." I'm like, "I build tech, right? This will work as well in banking as it does in marketing and advertisement and da 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 da." Sometimes there's specific architecture, but I can have a conversation with AI that is talk to me through the context of somebody else, right? Let's have a conversation and you pretend to be the customer and da da da. I love it. I love bouncing. I don't steal stuff. I don't need to put code in there and say, give me an idea of how to fix this. I just like to get a different perspective. Am I crazy? I'm thinking of it like this. And sometimes it comes back and says, nah, not quite. You know, I got into a fight with a model the other day where I was picking on another model and saying, hey, this is useless, right? And it was like, how dare you? Like that is such a sophisticated piece of tech. Like, how dare you? So I don't hate the people who love prompt engineering and having those conversations. I think the more opinions, the better. And like, what's wrong with that? Like, I don't know. And I am an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
I sit at my keyboard more than 50 hours a week, and I don't know. I just enjoy it. I don't know what else I would do. Watch TV. I do go outside
But that's the thing
sometimes.
is, that's great for you. I don't know that that's one of those, right? Like, I don't know. It's so, again, everything is so context dependent.
Yeah.
Depending on the type of product manager you want to be and the type of problems you're solving, I don't need any of that from you. We'll get into whether or not ChatGPT can answer for you in the industry and the type of customers you have versus you have product people you could just ask those questions of. But that's a debate for AI that we will beat that dead horse some other day. All right. Not a bird underscore not a plane. Why is this sub so allergic to project management? I very frequently in this sub see disparaging comments about PMs being dragged into project management work or letting themselves be used as glorified project managers in similar language. Or there's even some odd insistence on a distinction that PMs own the what and someone else does the when. At least personally, project management is pretty important work. Being close to the tech teams to make a day-to-day decisions about functionality, understanding when things are on track or won't be, and being able to think big picture about what's coming when and how makes me a much better product manager than if I were to sit in an ivory tower ideating and outsourcing the work of execution. How do you even know if your asks are technically feasible, really getting prioritized, or can be delivered in your timeframes without actually being near execution? Regularly delivering is how I built any amount of credibility with anyone in and outside of my org. Where does your credibility come from? My biggest point is product manager is a job title that you have no idea what it means depending on the org, and there are plenty of product managers who need to stay close to execution and do project adjacent things. And there are plenty of organizations where that should be a function of a product owner or a PMO or something else. I do think it's one of those things where everyone has a role and you only have 40 hours a week. And so, depending on what the organization needs and who's available to do a thing, it absolutely makes sense to have project managers doing what they do best. And having a PM spend any time doing that is bad. But I do sort of agree. The best product managers, in my experience, are the ones who can stay close to the technical implementation and understand a lot of these things, even if they're not necessarily on the hook for them the same way a project manager might be. I don't know. I think it's a tricky balancing act.
Yeah, I guess when I go to work every day, I'm never really, I'm obviously aware of the job titles, but I'm just thinking to myself, how do we get this done the right way, right? And so
Mhm.
a large part of my day is project management. I actually, at times, will tell guys, hey, you need a design session for something. And then I go schedule it for them because I realize, like,
Right.
that engineer, I'm asking them to do something important, and they've got the
Yep.
tough task of coding it. And then I'm going to dump a bunch of sort of back office and administrative stuff, knowing that they've got to schedule with some of the hardest people in the company to get a hold of. You know, people like you, it's like, I don't want engineers. I would rather go do the PMing for 10, 15 minutes and try to find a slot to
Right.
get in with people like you. Cause I'm never thinking about like, oh, well, that's a PM's job. I'm not doing that. Or you're the engineer. You should schedule it.
Right.
The amount of times I schedule meetings on behalf of people is crazy because I'm never thinking about it being my job or not, right? It's just
Yep.
we got to get it done. So yeah,
Yeah, it
I never
is fully agreed. Well, and I think it depends on the company that you're in. If you do have a project manager who has the time to help and do all of that, let them do that. They're probably better at it than you are. So like it entirely depends. But I think a good product manager is just the person filling the gap. I loved one of the comments in here from I Amazon Deliver. I don't know, I Amazon Deliver. Anyway, personally I roll my eyes because it's calling out something that doesn't need to be. Anything can be part of your function. Your job is to make sure things get done. People drop the ball all the time. Your job as a product manager is to pick that ball up and put it back in their hands. Sometimes it's project management stuff, sometimes an engineer somehow stops giving a fuck. Your credibility comes from not letting the ball fall. And a bunch of people hated this and sort of like misread it, but it absolutely is your job as the product person to ensure delivery. And if that means you need to do some things to ensure that delivery, it doesn't mean doing the engineer's job. It doesn't mean doing the architect's job. But if you need to figure out how to get them to execute, that is on your hands. I don't love the idea of product managers or the CEO of their product. But the reason that that metaphor works is the CEO is on the hook for everyone. The CEO doesn't do the job of the VP of sales. The CEO doesn't do the job of the tech support person, but they're responsible for that person getting their job done. And so yeah, it's on you to figure that kind of stuff out. I also like Poet Laureate 24's response because strategy is fun, easy, and has no accountability in a world driven by outputs and timelines. And so how much of this is product managers who don't want to be on the hook for actual delivery because it's more fun not to be. It's more fun to be the thinker. And yeah, I think that's a harsh truth is a lot of times people fall into this product role of, well, I'm just responsible for figuring out what we should do, not actually getting it done. And it's like, that's crappy of you.
yeah, wankers. You know, often architects are accused of sitting around and thinking. I hate it. I love the opportunity to sit around and think, but I love the idea of somebody creating a machine that just spits out time because I actually want to go and be alongside the engineers as you do it, right? Like sitting
Yeah.
around thinking for me is like I'm all about delivery. I tell people we have this conversation a lot with engineering teams where you can see them getting distracted by perfect design, and it's like it was
Hmm.
perfect enough before. It got us into a $250 billion market as it was. What do you want to change? The market's still a $250 billion market, like, but you're just prolonging the amount of time we get there because you want to talk and ideate over this stuff. Like, let's deliver. Let's get into that $250 billion market like right now. Let's be stable and
Right.
secure, but stop
Yep.
talking and dreaming and let's start doing.
Yep. Exactly. All right, well, that's going to do it for us on this episode of Acceptance Criteria. To read articles that we've written on similar topics to the ones we talk about here, head over to the blog at acceptancepod.com. And a quick reminder whether this is your first episode or you've been listening for a while, we wouldn't say no to your going and dropping 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leaving us a nice review. And if you want to leave us a bad review, remember the name of the podcast is The Thrilling Adventure Hour. Also, tell your friends if you like the show and that they should check it out. Some of the best podcasts out there grow by word of mouth, and we'd much appreciate it.
And a friendly reminder that we're always interested in hearing questions directly from you, our listeners, especially for our segment user stories. If you've got a scenario you'd like help with, Whether it's working with a problematic engineering or product team member, trying to navigate the never ending pitfalls with agile processes, or you just can't understand why your favorite app is evolving away from what drew you to it in the first place, we're here to talk it through with you. You can send those questions to acceptancepod@gmail.com or submit them on the Discord in the user stories channel, and we might be able to help you on a future episode. And we're happy to keep it anonymous so no one can trace it back to you if you end up shit talking a coworker or something.
For now, I'm Kevin Thomas Euland, and you can find me on most apps at kthomaseuland. That's ULLAND.
And I'm Andrew Greener, and you can find me on most apps at Criteria Greener. That's GREINER. And this has been Acceptance Criteria. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you.